Hey, what is up everybody and welcome back to another movie review. And since the season 2 of The Mandalorian wrapped up recently, I thought I'd give my thoughts on the season as a whole. I was a huge fan of season 1 and was absolutely hyped out of my mind for season 2. And when I sat down to watch episode 1, I knew I was in for a pretty fun ride. The Mandalorian season 2 picks up where season 1 left off as our favorite Mandalorian bounty hunter, Din Djarin, played again by Pedro Pascal, is searching the galaxy to bring his adorable little companion Baby Yoda to the Jedi. Episode 1 follows Mando and Baby Yoda as they make their way back to Tatooine because Mando is hoping that if he can find more Mandalorians, they can help lead him to the Jedi. He eventually makes his way to a town right in the middle of the desert that's being protected by a marshal named Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Olyphant. And he just so happens to be wearing Mandalorian armor. But not just any armor, he's wearing the armor of Boba Fett himself. But wait, how can that be? Boba Fett's dead. We all saw him, fall into the Sarlacc pit and return to the Jedi. It's explained later that Cobb actually got it after his town was attacked by criminals, and he was forced to flee into the desert where he was picked up by Jawas and bought the armor off them. He then used the armor to fight off the criminals and has kept it ever since. This leads to a scene where Cobb uses a rocket that shoots out of the armor's jetpack to blow up a speeder. Was Boba Fett ever able to use that like that when he had it? Because if so, why didn't he use it at any point during any of the original movies? Because, there are several moments where that have really come in handy. Anyway, Mando soon discovers that the town Cobb lives in is being terrorized by a huge sandworm thing called a crate dragon. Cobb agrees to give Mando his armor if he helps him kill the dragon, and eventually they get the townspeople and the Tusken Raiders to work together to help kill it. By the way, I love how Mando is able to communicate with the Tusken Raiders. He speaks their language fluently. I don't know, I really like seeing how these things communicate. It's really interesting. Anyway, they eventually kill the Krayt Dragon and Mando basically lets himself get eaten and then he blows up the thing with a bomb inside its stomach while flying out of its mouth. So, Mando gets Boba Fett's armor and he sets out with Baby Yoda on his speeder, and as he's driving away, the camera pans up to reveal Boba Fett himself alive and well, watching Mando leave. I cannot even begin to describe how much my mind was blown watching this. Think about it. Boba Fett is a character that we've thought to be dead for so long now, and now suddenly he's back. And he's one of the most famous Star Wars characters ever. I mean, this is absolutely insane. And he's wearing a cloak over his head, and he's got scars on his face and stuff, and he's played by Tamara Morrison, which makes sense because he's the guy who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. And Boba technically is a clone of Jango, but I've got a lot more to talk about, so I'll get back to him in a moment. The next episode is, I'm not gonna lie guys, this is my least favorite out of the season. It's not bad, but it's kind of more on the side quest filler side, which is perfectly fine. I mean, there were a lot of side quest episodes in the last season, and they were pretty good too. And yeah, I don't mind that kind of episode as long as it's entertaining and stuff, but I was a little disappointed after how entertaining the last episode was, not to mention that major bombshell they dropped at the end. But in this one, basically Mando has to transport this lizard alien mother and a tank full of her eggs to another planet because apparently her husband knows where other Mandalorians are. And not a whole lot happens except for a brief chase with a couple X-Wings. And eventually Mando and the lizard mom have to run away from these big spider alien things, which I gotta admit were pretty creepy. Also in this episode, Baby Yoda consistently eats this thing's eggs like he thinks they're food, and I know a lot of people are mad about this, and I'm not gonna lie, the first few times he did it, that kinda got a chuckle out of me. Is it wrong that I think that's funny? I mean, I really hope I don't make anybody mad for liking that. In the next episode, things really start to pick up as Mando reaches his destination and eventually meets up with other Mandalorians led by Bo-Katan Kryze herself. If you've seen the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, she is a really major character. She was part of a group called the Death Watch and eventually teamed up with the Galactic Republic to take back the planet Mandalore from Darth Maul during the Clone Wars. She also made an appearance in Star Wars Rebels where she briefly helped the Rebel Alliance fight the Empire on Mandalore, and eventually acquired the Darksaber, which, as we know, that by the time this show takes place, the Darksaber is being wielded by Moff Gideon, again played excellently by Giancarlo Esposito. We also learn from Bo-Katan that Mando is basically what they call a child of the Watch, which means he was raised by a small group of Mandalorians who really honor the old ways of the Mandalorian people, and that's why he has to wear that helmet all the time and never reveal his face. Bo-Katan tells Mando to go to a planet where he can find the Jedi Ahsoka Tano. I was absolutely shocked by this because Ahsoka is one of the most popular Star Wars characters ever, and she was a huge part in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels TV shows, and we were actually going to get to see her in live action. I had heard rumors that she was going to be in this season, but this moment confirmed it. The next episode is also more on the side quest side, but this one is a lot better because we get to see Mando's old friends Greef Karga and Cara Dune, played again by Carl Weathers and Gina Carano. And they all work together to sabotage an Imperial base nearby. This episode also has a really funny scene as Mando's ship has problems and he tries to get Baby Yoda to fix it. And he's like, no, put the red wire where the blue one was. No, put the red one where the blue one was. No, don't put the blue one back. No, keep it away from each other. The next episode is where things really start to pick up as Mando travels to a planet where a small town is ruled by a very evil magistrate, and she's in a conflict with none other than Ahsoka Tano herself, who is played here by Rosario Dawson. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared that Rosario Dawson wouldn't be able to pull off this performance because even though she's a really great actress, like, Ahsoka's a really, really popular character, and Ashley Eckstein did a great job voicing her in the Clone Wars and Rebels TV shows. But to my surprise, Rosario Dawson actually did a really great job, and I think she really did this character justice. This episode was both written and directed by Dave Filoni, which makes sense. Like, he's the guy who kind of made Ahsoka who she is. Like, she wouldn't be the same as a character without him. And, like, without him, she'd still be that super annoying brat we saw in, like, the animated CG Clone Wars movie, which, by the way, is awful. Like, it's so hard to believe that a great show came from something like that. Mando soon lands on this planet and is soon offered a spear made of pure Beskar by the magistrate in exchange for killing Ahsoka. In case you don't know, Beskar is a really valuable material to Mandalorians, and it's really dullable. Like, it's insane how powerful this thing is. He sets out into the woods to find Ahsoka, and the two get in a brief fight where we see just how strong Mando's armor really is, as he's able to block several strikes from a lightsaber. As Ahsoka and Mando talk, we learn something really important. We learn that Baby Yoda's real name is Grogu, and that he was initially taken in by the Jedi Order and lived through the time of the Empire. Ahsoka and Mando eventually team up to bring an end to the Magistrate's rule, and they ambush the town, which leads to a really exciting duel between Ahsoka and the Magistrate, where she uses the Beskar spear against Ahsoka and her lightsabers. They manage to win, and Ahsoka tells Mando to take Grogu to a planet where he can reach out with the Force and a Jedi may come looking for him. She gives Mando the Beskar spear and he flies off. I really love this episode for the way it's shot. It looks freaking amazing, and it gives off a really, really cool vibe. It reminds me a lot of old samurai movies. In fact, there's a shot where Ahsoka is walking down the road, and it looks really similar to a shot in Akira Kurosawa's samurai action film Yojimbo. They also tease the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and if you've seen Star Wars Rebels, he was a pretty intimidating villain, and also in some non-canon Star Wars material, he was also a really good villain too. In the next episode, Mando and Grogu reach the place Ahsoka told him about, and he places Grogu on a rock where he begins to reach out with the Force. But before long, the iconic ship the Slave One arrives, and of course, Boba Fett shows up along with Fennec, played again by Ming-Na Wen, and it's revealed that Boba was indeed the figure we saw standing over her in the desert, and in fact, he saved her, and now they're working together. Boba wants his armor back, and he's been following Mando ever since episode 1, but before long, the Empire shows up looking for Grogu. And okay, it's time to talk about Boba Fett. He is one of the most famous Star Wars characters ever. He's a bounty hunter, he's got a cool look, and pretty much the entire concept of the Mandalorian people in Star Wars was kind of based off this character's popularity. And I'm gonna be honest, I thought he was a little overrated. Not that he wasn't a bad character or anything, but he didn't really do anything. He mostly just stood around, looked cool, had maybe 3 to 4 lines of dialogue, and then just kind of went out like a punk in the Sarlacc pit fight. Honestly, I think the coolest thing he ever did was just kind of like nod to Princess Leia in that bounty hunter disguise after she threatened Jabba with a thermal detonator. But I definitely don't think that way anymore, as Boba goes full savage and just starts annihilating stormtroopers left and right with his bow staff thing that he has, and then he gets his armor back, and he just starts destroying these guys. He shoots, he punches, he even uses his back rocket launcher, which again begs the question, why didn't he use that in the original trilogy? But anyway, this scene is just so awesome on so many levels. It's almost like everything we've always wanted to see Boba Fett do, just suddenly given to us in one epic scene. But Moff Gideon sends out a group of Imperial droids called the Dark Troopers, and they actually manage to kidnap Grogu while the Imperial cruiser destroys Mando's ship. This was pretty shocking, as that ship had a lot of personality to it, and it was also kind of Mando's home. Like, it was also his ship, but like he kind of lived in that ship a little bit. Like, where's he gonna go now? How's he gonna get around now? Like what's gonna happen? Boba and Fennec agree to help Mando get Grogu back, and that leads to the next episode where Mando, Boba, Fennec, and Cara Dune free Bill Burr's character, who you probably remember from Season 1, from prison, so he can help them find Moff Gideon's ship. This episode is sort of like one last side quest episode before the finale, and it's okay. Bill Burr is really funny, and there's some memorable moments, like when they're all trying to decide who's gonna go into the base, and Boba Fett's like,
let's just say they might recognize my face.
yeah, you better believe they'll know who you are. I mean, like, you were Darth Vader's go-to bounty hunter whenever he wanted someone caught. We also get to see Mando's face for the first time since the Season 1 finale. They eventually find out where Moff Gideon's ship is, and this leads to the finale in which Mando, Boba, Fennec, and Cara, along with Bo-Katan and her group of Mandalorians, all attack Gideon's ship. They also have to face off against the Dark Troopers, which are really intimidating. I mean, like, the way they move and, like, the way they look, it's just, like, really, like, unnerving. Mando eventually makes his way to Grogu's cell, where Gideon is waiting. And this leads to one of my favorite lines from this character.
A friendly piece of advice. Assume that I know everything.
I love how brutally honest this guy is. Like, he's just so intelligent and cold and calculating. He's such a great villain. We then get a duel that I was really hoping would happen ever since Mando got the Beskar Sphere, where Mando fights Gideon with it against the Darksaber, which is a really cool fight. Mando defeats Gideon, takes him prisoner, but this creates a bit of a problem since Mando defeated Gideon. The Darksaber technically belongs to him, and Bo-Katan needs the Darksaber so she can claim the throne of Mandalore. But they don't have time to argue as the Dark Troopers come back and come close to breaking down the door, but before long a Jedi arrives in a black cloak and wielding a green lightsaber. What follows is what I can only describe as like the light side equivalent to that awesome Vader hallway fight scene we got at the end of Rogue One. The Jedi makes his way to the group and he's revealed to be Luke Skywalker himself. His face is like digitally altered to make him look younger. And as far as like Star Wars de-aging face effects go, because let's face it, that's kind of a trend now. This one's okay. I mean, it's not terrible. I've seen worse, but I can still tell it's kind of like CGI. I think they could have done a little better. It turns out Luke sensed Grogu's presence when he reached out with the Force, and he's come to take Grogu to be trained as a Jedi. Mando says an emotional goodbye to the child, even showing his face to him for the first time. And yeah, I'm not gonna deny it, guys. I cried during this scene. It was really sad. Like, Luke leaves with Grogu and the season ends. I kind of wish that there was one more scene with the other characters, because it kind of just cuts to black right after the Luke and Grogu leave. And I think there could have been at least one more scene just like kind of tying up loose ends, because like there was some stuff that was like left open-ended. But aside from that, this was a pretty good finale. And so that was The Mandalorian Season 2. And I think it was really good, even better than Season 1 actually. The characters are still really likable and interesting. The story is still entertaining, and at first I was a little afraid that bringing characters from other Star Wars media into this show would be kind of distracting. But if anything, these characters actually help progress the flow of the narrative, and their appearances don't come off as too fan servicey or anything. And it's also really cool to see some of these characters in live action for the first time. I also have to mention the incredible music by Ludwig Göransson. I loved his music in Season 1, and he absolutely kills it here. There were a bunch of scenes where stuff was happening, and then I would hear that epic Mandalorian theme, and it would just make the scene like 1,000 times better. And his music is like so unconventional for Star Wars, but it still has that same epic feel that like the best of like John Williams music had, and I really like it. This season also fleshed out the characters and the world a lot more, as we learned a lot more about like the Jedi, the Mandalorians, the planet Mandalore at this point in time, and the state of the galaxy at this point in time in the Star Wars timeline. This show just keeps getting better and better, and I can't wait for season 3. If you haven't seen this amazing show yet, definitely sit down and give it a watch, because the Force is most certainly strong in this one. Well, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll try to get more reviews out to you as soon as possible. Until then, my name's O'Reilly, and I'll see you next time.